think 2025 was a great year for games. A lot of good games came out, a lot of super interesting games, a lot of games that you don't expect to get the spotlight got a spotlight this year. A lot of highly anticipated releases came out this year, and the year was so stacked. Looking at the games that were nominated for Game of the Year, every single game had a reason to be on there. Me personally, I didn't spend too much time playing newer games because I'll just get them when they go on sale. And I did play a lot of games that I wasn't even planning to play this year, and a lot of games that I end up returning to this year. And I kind of just want to go over them all, you know, do a little wrap up of all the games I played this year and what I think about them and where I stand on them. I'll be giving each game a loose rating just based off of how I feel about the games themselves and how they hold up compared to the rest of the games I played. And with that said, let's just get started with the first game. At the start of this year, I decided I wanted to play some visual novels. These games have been something I've never really had interest in, and a lot of people don't like. So I was like, let me just give them a try. And Catherine Full Body was the game I chose to dip my toes in with. It's not really a visual novel by definition, but it's a lot closer to the genre than a lot of other games. This game is very good. I talked about it a lot in my video about visual novels, so I won't talk about it too much here. But to reiterate my main points, this game has a great narrative, amazing well-written characters, which extends past the main cast. And even the puzzle part of the game for a non-puzzle game enjoyer is very accessible and fun. It's not too easy where you don't feel a sense of challenge ever, but it's never too hard where I'm like, I have to drop this. Being able just to experience Catherine's story is probably the best part about the game, and it comes with a story that you don't really see anywhere else. If you're looking for a light, cozy game that you can complete in a week or even a long weekend, and you love talking to the non-main characters of a story, this is a great game for that. Catherine Full Body gets a cool 7 out of 10. There's not a lot of games like it when you exclude the puzzle part, and I could see myself recommending this game to a person who is very diverse and willing to try new things. I don't really have that many issues with Catherine, it's just a lot of small things that are very nitpicky, but the overall game is still solid. So just give it a try. You never know with these types of games that are pretty niche that, hey, you might end up liking it or you might hate it. You never know because you never played something like this. Milk Inside a Bag of Milk and Milk Outside a Bag of Milk are my true first visual novels. Even though together these games can be bought for less than a breakfast and completed in a day, doesn't mean they can't tell a great story with amazing writing and amazing themes. Out of all the games I played in my life, these games depict mental health in a way that I've never seen before and makes me want to play more games like this. I think Forspoken is also another game that does that, and I think I want to start that game this year too, maybe. But back to the Milk games. If you want to play a visual novel that comes in like a fun size package, here you go. You do miss out on a lot of the core elements that make a visual novel like the long runtime, many branching paths, but like it still has those elements in there, just on a smaller scale, so you can still appreciate what the genre has to offer without having to dive head first in a 30-hour game. And the game does do a lot of things that make it worth being a game that you can't just really get from just reading a book. I'm having a real hard time rating these games because they are really small, so I want to give them a 7, but I can't really say it lasted as long in my head as Catherine did just because of the size of the game. But I'm okay giving it the same score as Catherine because I love these games both. It's really hard to compare two games with different budgets, development size, and time, but I'ma just give the game a 7. It definitely deserves all the flowers that everyone gives it online. I still do wish that there were a lot more impactful choices in this game, but like the budget, the size, I can't be too mad at it, you know? But this next game is the exact opposite of the Milk games when it comes to that. I love Slay the Princess. Every choice you make in this game really matters. Even asking too many clarifying questions affect the story. Slay the Princess is the closest thing to a fully dynamic visual novel that ever exists, to my knowledge. I can't even say too much because it really does help to play this game completely blind to understand how good it is. And during my visual novel video, I did glaze it a lot. So you're just gonna have to trust me when I say you must play this game. Like, this is one of the best games I played this year. And I can't believe it's been slept on for so long. When people say visual novels cannot be games, this is the game I would use to rebuke that claim. And for that reason, I gotta give Slay the Princess a 10 out of 10. If you haven't played this game, you're robbing yourself of a one-of-one experience. I recommend playing this game and then watching somebody else play. It's just that good. And the game's not that long, you could just beat it in a good night, but there's a lot to explore in this game, so you might even spend like 2 or 3 on it. And it's not even that expensive too. Like, you have no reason not to play this game. If you don't want to play the game because of the visual novel aspect of it, you're robbing yourself. I don't know how to explain it, you're just robbing yourself. Give this game a try. This is probably the game that I'm gonna push the most this year. And for the next game, we got a big disappointment, Monster Hunter Wilds. This was one of my most anticipated games of this year. I'm a big Monster Hunter fan, so it's safe to say I was extremely excited when we were getting a new mainline game. I did have some worries about the direction they were trying to take the game in, especially trying to make an open, breathing, living world, which is constantly updating to the point where the quest board is supposed to be taking a back seat. I didn't really like that idea, but on release, I'm happy to say they kept the main gameplay loop. As for the game itself, it barely worked on my system. Do not try to play this game with only 8 GB of memory, system, or VRAM. It will not end up good for you. After an emergency upgrade of system RAM, I was able to actually play the game without crashing. The game still looked pretty butt cheeks on my system, but at least it's not crashing no more. So after actually upgrading my entire PC, the game actually looks pretty good. There are still some things about the presentation that look a little off, especially when Capcom is using an in-game engine and they also just have the budget and resources to make a good looking game. They've done it time and time again. So the fact that the quality of some of the graphical elements of the game are low kind of confuses me. But it's not that they're low, it's that they're low and the game still runs poorly. Having one or the other makes sense, but having them both at the same time is questionable. I'm a person who likes to play games at above 60 FPS, usually around the 75 to 80 range if I can, while still turning up all the graphics, to the point where I'm a big fan of AI upscaling in video games, because they help me achieve that. I do still kind of wish that Monster Hunter cut back on the more realistic art style, because even in World it was like perfect there, but I'm a big fan of the more colorful games like GU and Rise. When it comes to the effects and the environments in this game, there's a lot of eye candy that you just can't get anywhere else. It truly is a beautiful looking game if you have the right hardware. And it's just unfair that a lot of people don't have that hardware to see it. Even on PS5, the game does not look that good. But enough about all the game's looks and performance and all that. The gameplay wasn't that good. Maybe I fell out the Monster Hunter loop, but the game felt like it just played itself a lot of the time. Like I was just going through the motions. Nothing I really did felt deliberate, like I was just there to be there. This is something I want to talk more on a later video, but like, when it comes to going back to the game, this is a big issue for me. Over time, Monster Hunter has been slowly just turning into monster fighting. Like they've been streamlining the process of getting to the monster and actually fighting it as easy as possible. The dogs take you wherever you need to go with no input. Eating is something that you barely have to think about anymore. It just feels a little bit mindless when you're coming from the last generation of games or even just Rise. You could literally get on your dog, open up IG Reels, and just start scrolling for a little bit until you reach the monster. To me, that's just not fun. And for the most part, the game was very easy. Until you start reaching high rank in those late game monsters, that's where the actual challenge is in the game, and that's where the actual fun is. I'm waiting for the G rank expansion before I really talk about the future of the series, but at the moment it's looking shaky. This game is a 5 out of 10 game. It's lacking a lot of the things that make Monster Hunter special, and it's just fine as a video game overall. There's nothing really special about this game except for the good combat and monsters. And even then, I would still recommend a person play Monster Hunter World Iceborne or Rise before. Mouthwashing is the first psychological horror game I've ever played. I already talked about this game a lot in the visual novel video, so I'll keep it short, but this game is great for the genre. It tells a great story, has great characters, and it does it all in under 5 hours. And this game has some of the most unsettling scenes I've ever witnessed, even more than the other horror game I have on here. And the pacing of the game was perfect. No matter where you are in this game, there's always something keeping you interested and pulled in, even though you really don't know what's about to happen next. And this game isn't gonna leave you feeling confused either. There's not a lot of things that are left up to interpretation here, which is something I really appreciate as it allows me to understand what the developers had in mind when it comes to making each part of the game and its story. Not to say it's void of any literacy devices, but it's clear the developers had a story they wanted to tell and a message they wanted to get across. I recommend this game to anyone who wants to play something a little unsettling, but only really has like a night to really do it. Cool game. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10 as well. I'm really throwing out these 7s like they're nothing, but That's how I'm feeling. There's really not a lot of game here for me to really analyze, so like, that's all I can really get. Okay, now this is the big boy visual novel. Out of all the visual novels I played this year, this one is the one that surprised me the most. Kazuo Shoujo is a game where you date girls with disabilities. Don't get it twisted though, it's not a dating sim. Think about it more like a romantic visual novel. This was the most visual novel I played this year. I really went into this game thinking I wasn't going to like it, or I was gonna find it boring, and that I was really just gonna get through it just for the sake of the video. Wrong, this game had me hooked, and I'm still on my second playthrough right now. Right next to Slay the Princess, this game got the second biggest glazing out of all the visual novels I played in that video. The characters in the story were extremely nuanced and surprisingly deep considering the standard of the genre and its very concept as a game of dating disabled girls. And it's a longer game compared to the other visual novels I played, so it took a while for the game to really show its cards, but when it did, it just hooked me in. I truly wanted to understand all the characters of the game, and by the time my route finished, I was just sitting there like, wow. Once I finished that game, I just had to like put life on hold for a second, like that was the end of my day. Just had to sit back and think. My only issue with the game is I wish there was more dialogue options that impacted the story, but I know that's asking for a lot when considering the development and the budget of this game. But I think the only reason I'm saying that is because Slay the Princess really did spoil me. To be honest, that's really the only thing holding this game back. Its budget and its presentation. If it had the budget and presentation of a more well-known visual novel, I think this would be up there with one of the greats. But the core game is still there, which is perfect. A game like this is obviously going to be hard to recommend because it's not going to be most people's taste. You can't even get 50% of the gaming population to play anything that doesn't require a PS Plus subscription. And for the people who do like to play multiple different types of genre, this is still pretty out there. But with that said, I give this game an 8 out of 10, maybe a 9. Depends on how I'm feeling that day, which I know sounds crazy, but the story and the contents of the game is that good. It honestly makes me want to play more visual novels, at least 1 or 2 this year. So I think I'm just gonna give it that light 9. Because even though it's in a genre that I'm not too big of a fan of, I still enjoyed my time with this game a lot. It's great. Okay, for the last visual novel of the year, Valhalla. This is also a true visual novel. I feel like this game has more of a fan base than the previous one, but I'm not entirely sure. But Valhalla was a game that was recommended to me. I've heard a lot of good things about this game, but it's just a game that doesn't really show up on my radar of things I want to play. But now I actually do have a reason to play visual novels, so I gave it a try. And the game was cool. The characters were really good. The gameplay was just tedious to me. But the overall story was fine. It was good. Not as good as Kazuo Shoujo's, but it was still good. This game did have a hard time holding my attention, unlike all the other games on here, but I did enjoy my time with it. I'm just not especially a fan of the bartending minigame. Like, the characters stop talking, you look at a guidebook, and you make their drink. It's not that interesting. I really just wanted to talk to the customers. That's the whole reason why I'm even playing this game. And it just breaks up that conversation. This game does have its good moments, but the complete lack of dialogue options or any influence on the story does make it a little boring to me. It just makes the game feel a lot more flat. If you're already a fan of visual novels or these character-driven games, you'll probably get a lot more out of it than I did. But I'm gonna have to just give the game a 6. It's a fine game. I could definitely see why a person may fall in love with a game like this. And honestly, I wish there was a sequel out because I would have played that too, even though I didn't enjoy my time with this game as much as I did with others. And the next game on the list is Returnal. To be honest, I didn't play as much of the game as I really wanted to, but this game is super unique and there's really nothing like it. A 3D bullet hell third-person shooter? I mean, you could call this next game Solaris all you want, but this is still Returnal too. I love the gunplay here. It's super satisfying and weighty, along with the overall combat with the dashes and the melee just makes for an amazing gameplay system. I almost wish this company would make a Metroid Prime type of single player game with this combat system because I like it that much. But instead we got a story-based roguelike, which I don't even know how that even exists. And to be honest, it executes that concept pretty well, getting different bits of story and lore throughout different runs. And the items you get are really tame. So you won't be doing crazy shit in a 20-minute run that just allow you to skip the main gameplay loops. You're gonna still be dodging and shooting like the entire time, which is something I really do like about this game compared to a game like Risk-A-Rang, where you get so powerful it doesn't even matter if you hit the shoot button or not. For a game that was released on the original PlayStation 5, if you can max out its settings, you have a really great looking game. It still has some of that TAA blurriness if you're not using like a modern AI upscaler, but it doesn't matter too much because the game still looks amazing. All the particle effects, all the monsters, all the foliage just looks beautiful. I feel like if you're able to play this game on an OLED screen, it just becomes 20 times better, but I don't have that, so I'm just going to imagine that it does. For now, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. The co-op is pretty good, the art style is amazing, the story is whatever, but the combat is where this game shines, and you don't really get that anywhere else. Here's the first game that I replayed this year, Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. I ended up replaying this game with 2 other people, one who has played GU before and one who hasn't, which definitely made the experience a lot better. Playing this game helped me solidify my opinions about Monster Hunter Wilds, because this game is one of my favorite games, not in the series but just all of gaming. Something about that old school way of hunting is weirdly endearing, even for all its faults. Anything that was smoothed over in Wilds and World is here in full effect, and it makes every hunt feel deliberate in comparison, and I love it. Sometimes. There's still a lot of other things that just make the game harder to play and just enjoy, but that's just the nature of playing an older game. The only bad thing about this game is that sometimes it can feel too bloated. Doing village quests and hub quests can feel like a waste of time, especially if you're trying to play with other people. But the combat in GU is so perfect that it's not that much of a chore. It's only bad when you're doing quests that don't require hunting. Having to use a database app or a second monitor just to look up something is also very annoying, but hey, that's just how it is when you're playing these older titles. But that is something I'm glad they got rid of in the newer titles. I'm gonna give GU like a light 9 out of 10. There's a lot of little things that really hold this game back from being a 10, but a lot of those things make GU special, like the amount of quests that they have on hand. It's a little bit of a harder game to recommend, but if you're a fan of the last 2 games, you will like GU. Just make sure you have somebody to play it with. Duel 1. Over the summer, I played a lot of Guilty Gear Strive. This definitely wasn't my first run-in with the game, but once I heard they added an ELO-based ranking system, I was extremely hyped and was able to get pulled back in the game again. This is how every fighting game's ranking system should work. It gave me that competitive spark and enjoyment that the tower system lacked. And the fact that the ranking is per character meant that I could actually learn and play a new character without losing my tower position. So I actually did have a chance to play Dizzy and Abba. So far I'm really liking Dizzy a lot more, and learning her has been a blast. Overall, every time Guilty Gear Strive gets an update, it's nothing but positive. It's a little hard to rank a fighting game, but like, whatever. I'm gonna give this game like an 8 out of 10. I really like playing this game. It's so perfect middle ground for being complex, but still accessible for anyone to pick up. Here we go, another big game for the year. Okay, last year, but I'm playing it this year. Metaphor ReFantazio is an amazing game. It's like Atlas took all their best games and ideas and said, fuck it, let's just use them all to make the foundation for something new. The combat alone is taken from some of my favorite games in their catalog, mainly Shin Megami Tensei 3 and Digital Devil Saga. And I also feel like the game does the Persona thing a lot better than Persona. When it comes to the combat, being able to have any archetype on any party member makes it feel a lot more freeing and gives you a lot of room to experiment, which I love. The calendar system has always been the weaker part of the Persona games for me, and as I play more and more of them, I like it less and less. It's too static and too samey. But Metaphor's calendar system is a lot more dynamic in comparison. Spending your day just traveling to a dungeon but not having that day completely removed is amazing. Like, you actually have to spend your time wisely, as sometimes traveling to a dungeon may take more than one day, but you're still not locked out of gaining social stats or boosting your bonds. As for the story, it's not a masterpiece, but it is incredibly enjoyable. I feel like the characters of the game are more of the highlights of the game, and it does show through their writing. And it's probably one of my favorite parts about this game outside of the combat. All the social links you have are super unique and super interesting. And I'm glad that Atlus had a new setting to actually have more unique social links than what they're used to when it comes to the Persona games, all being set in high school. I think this game is proof that when Atlus decides to actually take a good risk, they can actually make a game people will like and actually want. I love playing this game. I'm a little mad at myself for taking so long to actually get to it, but here we are. And it's just one of my favorite games of this year. And are we serious? It lost the game of the year to Astrobot? Astrobot? This game is a perfect RPG and it lost to Astrobot, a glorified... Ooh. I really recommend this game. If you ever played a JRPG or you're on the fence about JRPGs, just play this game. I give this game like a 10. That's because the world building, the story, and the combat are just perfect. And this is one of the few Atlus RPGs that doesn't get easier as time goes on. Yes, you still get strong, but the enemies start doing some bullshit, which I really appreciate about this game. It kept me on my toes every single time. Well done, Atlus, well done. So, that new DMC anime came out this year, and yeah, it was something. Anyways, that gives me an excuse to actually play DMC4. And after really playing the game, it's alright. Playing the first half as Nero is a lot more fun than playing the second half as Dante. Because Dante is only really good once you have all his weapons and abilities unlocked. But Nero is a fun character at its base level. And it doesn't help when you play as Dante that you're experiencing zero new content, all the bosses are the same, all the levels are the same, just in reverse. So it doesn't make the game any more enjoyable. Playing a DMC game for the first time isn't really where the main fun's at. It comes from that second playthrough on the harder difficulty. But once you already felt like you played the game for a second time the first time, you're not gonna really want to go play that harder difficulty again. You're better off just sticking to Bloody Palace. I'm honestly gonna have to give this game like a 5 out of 10. It has a strong foundation with its combat system, but like the game itself just feels like a slog to play once you hit Dante's part. After playing that, I went on to replaying DMC5 again, this time on PC instead of PS4, which can I say is day and night. The game on console does not do it justice. This game runs and looks amazing. Especially if you're able to play this game above 1080p, the amount of clarity you get is actually a lot more helpful than it is in other games where it's just a visual improvement. Although DMC4's combat was pretty perfect, this game somehow still improves on that. And the fact that you switch between Dante and Nero instead of it just being Nero first then Dante is a better structure for the game overall. And the enemies of this game are perfect. Like, there's not a single enemy that I just outwardly hate. I've been spending hours playing through Bloody Palace as Dante and Nero. The combat is so good in this game. All I need is the enemies and a stage to have fun. And the bosses they have on offer in this game are some of the best in gaming. I do have my issues with the game, of course, like the level design is kind of iffy at times. A lot of the levels just start to blend into each other, especially at later stages, as they all just are flesh covered rooms. But that's about it. Sometimes the music is a little too much or doesn't exist at all, which is a little weird, but it's okay. The combat is still good. So for all of that, I'm just gonna have to give the game a 9 out of 10. Meadow Eden. I was really excited for this game, and I hate to say it, but the game is just fine. It was looking promising before release, looking like it was following in Doom Eternal's footsteps, while still bringing its own more hyper gameplay to the table. But there's just a few issues with this game that really hurt it. One of the big ones is that extremely thoughtful resource management that made Doom Eternal so special has been skinned alive. There's barely any reason for you to use your full arsenal, and doing anything literally gets you all your health and shield back. It feels a little too mindless to the point where it feels like you're just following a simple flowchart that can't fail. As where in Doom Eternal, every action you made had a specific deliberate reason to it. And because of that, it made the game feel a lot less challenging and not rewarding at all. Maybe I might give it a try on a harder difficulty, but at this current moment it's not pulling me back in. The game is not only beautiful but runs pretty good by today's standards. Just running and looking at some of these levels are some of the best parts of this game. There are a lot of unique stages, but there's also a lot of stages that do look like they'll last, just with a few tweaks. But this is a game with a smaller development team and a smaller budget, so it's not that bad, and it is actually kind of crazy that they were able to put something like this together. I mean, just look at some of these set pieces. I would recommend this game on sale just to try it out. I hope the studio takes the foundation of the game, refines it, and makes it into something truly special. I'ma give Meadow Eden a light 6. Fatal Frame is one of those games that you hear a lot about, but never really see gameplay or hear anyone giving it its flowers. So for the Halloween season this year, I chose to pick up Fatal Frame 2. It's definitely an interesting game. I think its unorthodox approach to combat is a lot more interesting. It makes the game a lot more scarier than your average gun with a low amount of ammo that a lot of survival horror games are based around. I ended up going with the original PS2 version, and for a PS2 game, I thought I was going to get very lost and confused, but it didn't happen as much as I thought. There were rarely any times in the game where I actually had to pull out a guide to understand what I had to do next. That's +1 for intuitive game design at such an early stage of gaming. All the levels and puzzles of this game just make sense, like you never really feel like it's just throwing you random hints and you're just supposed to figure it out. The only time I felt completely lost is because I didn't play the game for like a week and didn't understand exactly where I was with the puzzle. The whole taking pictures of ghosts to exorcise them is a really good mechanic. A little sluggish on the controls, but I kind of expected that when playing a PS2 game. And the fact that you use the camera to take pictures of hostile and non-hostile ghosts is pretty amazing. When it comes to the non-hostile ghosts, it kind of feels like you're just collecting the pictures just to collect them, which feels really nice, especially with the ghosts that disappear if you look at them for too long and you don't get to actually snap that picture. That one hurts. Although the story wasn't all there for me, I think the world building and atmosphere that the game had going on was amazing. And yo, what is happening outside? I give Fatal Frame 2 a strong 7 out of 10. It's a great game that honestly makes me want to play more in the series. And when that remake of 2 comes out, I will definitely be picking it up. Yui Yami. Yami Dancers is a small little rhythm game based on the Touhou series that I picked up on a whim. I don't really even have a script for it, it's just so small, like I can talk about it in like 3 seconds. I really like the game. I want to play more of this game, but it's surprisingly very difficult. But the music kind of slaps, so I just want to keep getting further and further in the game till I hear all of it. Out of all the themes I've heard so far, this first one is one of my favorites. I can't really rank the game so far since I haven't played too much of it and I've yet to beat it because you have to beat it in one go. So I'm just gonna have to say it's a 6 out of 10 and call it a day. Very good game, very unique concept, very fun. Somehow I made it through this entire time without talking about one multiplayer game. And here's one of the biggest ones of the year, Battlefield 6. After being burnt for what feels like a decade, EA let DICE actually make a good video game this time. Returning to modern military, 64 players and classes, everyone was excited, even though we all knew who was pulling the strings behind the scene. This game could still do everything right, and just because EA is at the head of it, means we could still end up with some dog shit. So I was pretty skeptical going in. And after putting like 13 hours in this game, I could say that the game is just alright. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just a little underwhelming once you realize DICE and EA pulled out all the stops hiring 3 development teams for this. So if this is them at their full power, whatever, I'll just take it. I think what's really missing from the games are those maps. They don't really feel like Battlefield maps. Which feels weird to say for the first time, because even Battlefield 1, 4, 5, Hardline, and hell, even the Battlefront games all have those maps that feel like Battlefield. Not this game though. I feel like the maps are just too small, too tight. Like there's never really a time where I'm looking for a light transportation vehicle to get from one objective to another. You could just run to it. Which was definitely felt during the beta phase, which had me a little worried. Yes, the Battlefield series isn't void of any smaller maps, but even at their smallest, they're still a lot more open than the ones that we have in this game. And all the flags are these small tight rooms or small tight nooks and crannies between buildings. It's odd. Like the Manhattan Bridge map is one of the only maps that feel right, especially with that big flag in the middle. It doesn't feel like you just can clear the room and then instantly take the flag, like you have to be on it for a while searching for enemies. Besides that, I think the gunplay this year is superb, taking what works from Battlefield 4, 2042, and BF5 and making something not too random where it feels like your shots are just going anywhere. but not overly precise where you could just beam somebody from across the map with any weapon. That's definitely the best part about this game. On the topic of the gunplay, I really like the customization in this game. It's a lot better than the recent Battlefield games, especially Battlefield 4 and 5. I do believe the game was overhyped even before release, but you know how Battlefield players get. They see one good trailer and they think the game's gonna be the best thing that ever came out. But the game's definitely missing that Battlefield spark that makes BF4 and BF1 so special, and I truly believe it's all because of the map design. And nothing proves that more than them adding Operation Firestorm as a returning map. Like, it's not a bad map, it's alright, but there are way better maps than this. I'm gonna rate Battlefield 6 the same rating I would give for Operation Firestorm. It's a 5 out of 10. 5 more years to Battlefield 4. Arc Raiders was the second multiplayer shooter I played this year, and I just gotta say, it's a fine game. I don't think the genre is really for me, but I do enjoy playing this game a lot. The game is also pretty beautiful, honestly. That's probably one of the best things about it. The gunplay is actually pretty cool too. I love how all the guns feel like they're just about to burst out of your hand because they're so shitty. But since we're all on that shitty playing field, the gunfights just feel so much more tactile. In an era where every game wants to have pinpoint accurate shooting mechanics, this feels very refreshing. And the fact that a lot of people are playing a new type of game for the first time ever, it's not only surprising but makes me very happy to see that new games in new genres can thrive. Because the extraction shooter genre has always existed, but it has never been even close to being this popular. I really hope that games in unsaturated genres start to pop up a lot more because the multiplayer scene has been very dry lately. I'm gonna leave Arc Raiders unrated, but if I really had to give my personal opinion on it, it's just a 6, a light 6. The last game that I played this year was Control on PC. This has been one of the games that I've been meaning to give a second chance for a few years now since I tried playing on the PS4 and did not like it. I just thought the controls were very clunky on the PS4. Control is one of those games that really need no introduction unless you live under a rock, especially seeing how it's just now getting a sequel. The art design of this game is very beautiful. Each room looks like a set piece. You don't have a lot of games that focus on internal architectural design, and this might be the first time I'm ever really seeing that in a video game, and Remedy killed it. The art design is probably one of the best things about this game. The combat is good, but the enemies don't push you to ever really take advantage of it. Like, they just let themselves get thrown and dragged around like it's nothing. Like, they never put you in a position where bad resource management gets you killed. It's always just run at you, slowly. And I think that's the only problem about the game's combat. Because it does have a strong foundation to be something great, it's just the enemies aren't really there. I think Metal Eden and Control have the same issue with resource management, where it's not really there enough to enhance the gameplay, but it's also just there enough for you to not be able to spam. One of the bigger parts about Control is its world and story, and I didn't even really like the story. It kind of falls flat halfway through, and then you get more reveals out of nowhere. The lore is definitely something that's more interesting, but like, I'm not reading 50 different pages I found on the floor every 5 minutes, so I didn't really understand it too well. But it's definitely interesting if you're willing to look, I know that. Overall, I'm gonna just say Control is a fine game. It's pretty good. You should definitely try Control if you haven't, even if it's just to go sightseeing. Like, if you have a console or PC that could do ray tracing, take full advantage of it because this game looks amazing with it. Now, you are going to take a massive hit in performance like you do with ray tracing, but I think it's worth it. When it comes to realistic games, they kind of don't really have an art style, but this game is something special and it can't be praised enough. When it comes to the particle effects, the lighting, the rooms, the architecture, it's just one big painting. I think I'm just gonna have to give this game a 6 out of 10. It's definitely a good game to play, but like, it doesn't have a lot of replay value and the enemies just kind of suck. And not in an annoying way, they just kind of just suck at doing their job as enemies. And that's about it. That's all the games I played this year. I definitely didn't play a single bad game this year, so my ratings are kind of high. But my absolute favorite games this year were definitely Slay the Princess, Kato Sojo, and Metaphor ReFantazio. All those games are just amazing. And yeah, that's about it. This is going to be my plan for 2026. I have a lot of interesting games on here. No new releases because they're not on backlog yet. But depending on what comes out, I might switch it around. If I don't finish half the games on this list, I will be running a mile or doing 100 push-ups in a row. So yeah, I will be holding myself to this list. Anyways, have a great year. Love y'all.